Hi, and welcome to the Aspire Europe Competent Vision and Outcome Management course. This is Module 1. I'm going to give you an overview of the concepts that we're going to cover during the whole course and do introductions to the other modules and cover the context area. The things we need to think about before we start. My name's Rod Sowden, and I'm looking forward to talking this through with you in this one and the other modules. Okay, this is a quick overview now. So the first thing that we're going to cover is context. So in a minute, I'm going to take you through why we need to think about visions, outcomes, and the terminology around blueprints and target operating models. Then we're going to have a little think about in the next module, which is module 2, vision statements, their role. Third module, we're going to look at outcome design. And in that one, we're going to look at some of the tools you can use to describe the functions within your organization. And finally, we're going to look at how we use the outcome delivery to control progress. All right. So one of the things to consider at this is if you're from a program management background, you've come up through project management, probably that kind of area. The challenge that you will face if that's your background is this is all about designing the end states for a business or an organization or some socio-economic enterprise that you might be in. And these are not the core skills that you've probably grown up with. All right. You need operational knowledge. You understand how the business functions. But it's really important that you get this sorted out. Okay. So it's always a big challenge. If I look at most of the programs we've reviewed doing our P3M3 and all the other things that we do, this is normally a gap, which is why we've dedicated an entire competence course to the topic. So, an analogy that I'd like to share with you that came to mind once when I was delivering some training and people were looking a little bit vacant. So, imagine we're designing a racing yacht, okay? And we've got to think about the course that we're going to follow. So we need navigation. We need to think about steerage, which is your kind of rudder, how we're going to get there. And we've got to think about where's the energy going to come from. So first of all, in program management terminology, we have a vision. This is where we want to get to. And the yacht is the vehicle for getting us there to this new future state that the organization wishes to get to. For our steerage, why we're going there is our benefits. All right, so that's actually, if we're plotting a course, we use the steerage to actually make sure we end up at the right vision position and that we get the benefits that we're after. So at the foundation of all our decision making is, are we going in the right direction? Are we going to get our benefits? And how we get there is basically our sails. Okay, so our sails capture the wind, give us the energy and drive us forward. That's how it kind of, so if we see our vessel as our way of getting to the end state, it kind of hangs together. So when we think about building a yacht, on the first day we launch it, everybody gets on board with our program, and we're all sat around having a lovely time. We're thinking about what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. So in the early days of our yacht, we don't really see any problems with it because we're basically not under any pressure. And off we go. Yeah, we set out towards our destination, in this case in a race, and we're setting out somewhere, and still we've got our sails full of wind, so our projects are starting to run. We've got our course, we've got our vision, know where we're going, and steerage is quite straightforward because as we're heading off, it's a calm day and everything's looking good. The trouble comes when the seas get rougher, the pressure comes to bear on the project delivery, and if we think about the stuff that can happen, so we'll have dependencies between projects. We can get, as things speed up, confusion around how do the requirements of one project fit with another, overlaps, pressure to change direction, all that kind of stuff starts to kick in a big program. And it's then that we need the stability of a well-built yacht. And the thing that we haven't talked about is the keel, all right? The thing that's running below the level of the yacht that's holding us in place. Yeah, and on our diagram, that little bit down there. Now, if you don't have that sorted out, the yacht's going to capsize, all right? Bad things are going to happen to yachts that don't have a keel. So if we want to take an analogy, a blueprint or a target operating model is our keel. It's the thing that keeps us on course. It's the thing that keeps us steady and it helps us weather difficult situations, because in the blueprint we have described the detail around what the world will be like when we achieve that vision, and the projects are using it to define their requirements, and it's the basis for thinking about things like change control and all that kind of stuff, impact assessment. The blueprint is the thing that keeps us stable. I hope that makes sense. And if you don't know anything about yachting, I'm sure you'll get the idea. I've never been on a yacht in my life, but I kind of got the idea. Okay, so let's just think about the steps that we need to follow to sort out visions and outcomes. So the first step we need is to get our project program objectives sorted. Yep, what is it that the business wants from us? Is it higher performance? Is it creating new capability, new railway lines? What is it that it's asking us to do? What do we have to deliver as a program? So we need to know what the objectives are. We want to make the world a better place. And from that, we can clarify what the outcomes are. What is the end state? What's going to be different? What we will be doing? What won't we be doing in the end? That's what we need to know for a program. Let's face it, in a world of VUCA, yeah, which is volatile, unpredictable, and uncertain, and all that sort of stuff. These things are going to change. But if we don't have this sorted out, we can't manage that change. We'll just flap around in the wind. So, next thing we do is the as-is state. Where are we starting from? One of my big lessons in my first program was restructuring a big IT support operation. Every local IT manager had a different view about how things worked. But actually, they seem to forget that basically we're delivering the same services, but they had veered off from the service level agreements. And the way they veered off meant that actually just the changes in each area were going to be different. So we needed to go back and go, right, how are you delivering X, Y, and Z process? What services are you providing? Because we could have easily made assumptions that what we thought they were delivering, they weren't. And in a number of cases, they were delivering things we didn't know about. So as we went through the change, those things would have gone wrong and it would have affected the customers. So we need to know what the as-is state is. And from that, we can then say, here's our vision. Yeah, now we know where we are. We can then really work out where we can get to. It might not be really where we want to go, but we can be realistic about where we can get to, because we can see the level of change that we're needing to bring in. And it's at that point we do the detailed analysis. Now we deal with setting the vision in module 2. Modules 3 are really around that detailed analysis and about what you can do when you're thinking about changing something, understanding the impact, because if you don't understand it, you can't actually get the projects properly scoped. And of course, you won't get the benefits because they weren't there in the first place, because you were living in dreamland. So let's have a little think about some of the terminology we're going to use around here. So first one is the vision. And in this slide, I'm going to help you see how it all fits together. So the vision is that aspiration about where the organisation is going to go. We have the term vision statement and vision. They're not technically the same, because the vision is one thing, but the vision statement may need to be different for different parts of the organisation, because the effect of the overarching vision may be different, and you need to be straight and tell the home truths about that when you do it. Now, the vision, most programs have got a wonderful fluffy vision because they're the easy things to write. Then we got this term target operating model, and it does kind of overlap a little bit with blueprint. So what I want to do for this course is say target operating model is the whole change state that the programs have to deliver. Now, it may be in a major restructuring program that you have multiple target operating models running. So if you were in a big organization, the target operating model is the full end game, but what you would do is supplement that with blueprints. So the blueprints are like sub-elements of the target operating model. So if you were in an organizational restructure, you might be restructuring IT, manufacturing, I don't know, property maintenance, whoever it is. The target operating model would be the accumulation of those, but each business area would have its own blueprint, which actually was then assembled into an overall model. So the blueprint would say how they were going to work in that functional area. And from that, we can then cascade into business requirements. So that's how the vision finds its way into the projects, because the business requirements are what the project has to deliver. Okay, so the target operating model is the overarching view of the outcomes the organisation wants. The blueprint gives us the divisional outcomes, and the business requirements drive the projects. And so there you can see our little monkey puzzle. You can see that the vision cascades into the target operating model, which then drops into the next level of detail with blueprints, and then we get our business requirements. All right, and so in the competent visions and outcomes, that's as far as we think about. All right, the actual delivery of the change comes into planning, control, and the governance modules. So just thinking about the program structures and how they fit together. So if we're looking at a portfolio environment, we would have a portfolio board, and the thing that would be they would be considering as they launch all the various programs and projects is they should be working towards a strategic target operating model. All right, that's the thing that should be holding them together, even though they're probably running around worrying about projects and programs and all that sort of stuff. All their decision making should be driven by that strategic outcome. All right, and then we've got the role of the SRO or the exec sponsor that probably sits on the portfolio board and gets the commission to deliver their program, and then they sit within the program board and they would be targeting a blueprint for that bit of the program or target operating model, whichever. I mean, if you've got a standalone program, they may well be using the word target operating model. I think we just need to recognize that the target operating model is the overarching term that we use, whatever the context, and then the blueprint is the sub-elements of it. Okay, so we got a program board, and then we've got our two key program roles creeping in. We've got the program manager who delivers capability, and we've got the business change managers who deliver the change. So the program manager in the context of this is the one that has to deliver those outcomes. So the program manager needs the blueprint, and from that they get the business requirements. The business change managers are actually inputting all the detail to the blueprint. So if you've got half a dozen, if you're changing 5 or 6 areas, it's likely you'll have 5 or 6 business change managers. Each one of them will have a blueprint for their business area. The program manager then is looking at the aggregation of that because they have to deliver the project. So the overarching assembly of the divisional blueprints, you could call it a target operating model for the program. Be careful if you're in a portfolio environment because they may have a higher level target operating model. So you've got to be careful with vocabulary and all this lot, and where, at which level are we thinking about? Okay, well, I hope you found that interesting. After listening to that, it's probably time for you to have a cup of coffee and think about working your way through the module. I hope that proves of value, and I look forward to virtually engaging with you in the upcoming modules.